Hi, this is Untold. We're unfiltered, unapologetic and unedited. If you want to hear your stories and ours, please click the subscribe button and like our video. Hi guys, since it's October, it's obviously Black History Month and Naima's birthday. But the most important thing is, what does Black History Month mean to you?
So I've been thinking about this because obviously I love Black History Month, and the fact that it's also the same month of my birthday is quite important to me. But no, I was thinking about it and I was like, obviously, for me, Black History Month has always been something that's so important because my mum's always spoken about celebrating the culture. Has always spoken about Black history. And obviously when I was in school, we were like the first ones to do something for Black history in that school. And now it's a tradition. And like they actually do like a concert every single year. And we were the ones, we like actually pioneered that, which is pretty cool. And I like saw the display on Facebook Memories the other day and I thought about it. And so when I think about Black history, I just think it's so key because, so I don't want to waffle on too long, but I'm just going to give you guys an example of why I think it's so important. The other day, my mum was on the phone to like one of her best friends who I call Auntie. She's like in our lives a lot till about, I could hear her on the phone till about 1, 2 a.m. And they're having this discussion about just what's been going on this year, like everything. And like my mum's friend, obviously, like I said, she's family. Like I call her Auntie, everything. And she's just not, she's white, by the way, disclaimer. So they're having this discussion because she's not like getting my mum's point of view. And the reason why I think Black History Month is so important and what Black History Month means to me is just that lack, just the education that people need to understand those sorts of conversations. Because my mum's almost like against a brick wall trying to explain to her, you know, the history of things and why it's so important and why what happened with George Floyd isn't a one-off incident, but actually it's all a systemic issue. And I think if people don't understand the history, most importantly, Black history, they can't understand the present day and they can't understand why Black people now are so angry. And it's like, now it's like enough is enough. But because we don't actually get taught it, what we get taught about is Hitler.
Yeah.
I learned about Hitler for 10 years. I've said this a lot, but I'm really angry actually about how much I've learned about Hitler. So and fair enough, like that was, the Holocaust was a disgusting thing. Like, and we need to learn about that. That's such an important part of history because we need to know that mistakes shouldn't be repeated.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to this now, I'm like, people are so ignorant and they don't understand why Black people are so angry and they want us to get over it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think if you know why we were so angry, you know that this was our whole history, then you wouldn't be like, why you I think that's why education is important.
Yeah, I think it's important because really and truly, it shouldn't even just be a month thing. I think I agree with you. It should be ingrained into everyday like learning at school because it's part of it. It's integrated learning, really, isn't it? Because there's actually a degree in King's, like a master's degree called World History, and you only focus on the US, Russia, and Europe. How is that world history? And I think that's the problem. You've actually titled it World History, and it's not just...
And you've ignored Africa.
Yeah, it's not, and then my friend, she's doing it, and she was like, she chose it because she thought she was going to learn about Persia. She thought she was going to learn about, you know, the African trade that was going on pre-slavery and things like that. But again, she was like, this is what I did for my undergrad. And I had to like kind of force them to allow me to do a thesis on something that wasn't Europe-centric. And I think it just sends this narrative that this is the world, this is it, where you come from, where you're really from. That's all you want to know, but you don't want to know the history behind it. Yeah. And what that then leads to is this self-centeredness of yourself. If that's all you've known, and if all you've known about is Hitler, when somebody comes and tells you that Leopold killed over 10 million people in Congo Republic through colonization, you almost feel defensive, even though you've never actually met King Leopold. He is not your father. And here you are defending it. And that's what it leads to.
Sorry, we need to... Why do they feel defensive?
I think this is it. I think the history snuck up on them. I think if you started from young and you kind of said this is part of the story, they don't get defensive. They learnt about it. Now, when you reach a big age of 20, 21, and you're now telling them things they didn't know, of course they're defensive because first of all,
that's all they've known.
That's all they've known. And when you feel like you're not educated, you do get defensive. And I think that's why they're quite on it when you start informing them, because they're like, how dare you inform me about
my history, my world history, because ignorance always shouts a lot louder than wisdom talks every time anyway. That's what it is.
For me, I think like being a child of immigrant parents and like growing up here, I think it's important to know Black history because like that's where I come from. Like it's good to know where you come from, because if you're growing up in a society where you're not the norm.
Yeah, you're the minority.
Yeah, you're the minority, and like all you're hearing about is Henry VIII and whoever else. It's like, okay, but I don't come from this.
Henry VIII.
What about me? And like, I think when I was in primary school, they did teach a bit about Africa, but it wasn't the real Africa. Do you get what I mean? Like it was, everyone lives in mud huts, no cars. And I literally say this story all the time, but I was in Uganda a month prior to them teaching us about that, and I was like, no, definitely. I went on a motorbike. Yeah, there's definitely cars there.
There is actually some civilization.
So I think like it's just for us to be empowered as well, because at that point I'm sitting in class thinking, oh, this is embarrassing, like because everyone's thinking, oh no, there's poor Africans,
and people low-key look at you,
and they kind of glorified their history, but it's good to know like it's not, our history isn't just slavery. And it's like, and
I think as well, I was going to say that as well, is like Black history for me is so important because it's actually a month where we get to be celebrated. Like I feel like growing up as well, obviously when I was growing up in London, my mum used to take me to so many different like just shows, and like in like October, like the community that I grew up in, that was a big month for like the Black community.
I agree.
So like just being able to actually celebrate your culture, like they would have the drums, just anything. It was like, actually, like, I love this. And that's why, again, I thought it was so important when we did the concert in school, that it was like, we're going to celebrate, we're going to wear like traditional clothing, we're going to have the different music, we're going to have different like just African food and Caribbean food, because I also think it's a great month where we can celebrate each other and it not be like all negative.
I think, sorry.
No, there you go.
I was going to say my Black History Month, what it means to me is kind of what Naima meant. It meant to Naima. Like growing up, it was a very big thing for us. The whole month there'll be different types of food, different events, poetry nights, everything. And it would just be a month of celebration. And if I was to be asked what did Black History mean to you back then, it would be food. Now it's slightly different. Food and partying, but now it's slightly different. And I think I think now it means understanding my history in the past and in the present, and celebrating the past people and people that are making history right now, Black people that are making history right now. So
On top of that, I think it helps reclaim and redefine what civilized is, because I actually have a problem with that word. Because you know how people talk about, civilization, uncivilized, etc. That's actually a European concept. Because what you've said is anything that doesn't look like us, doesn't talk like us, is not civilized.
Yeah, we're also showering.
Yes, long time before Romans invented baths.
They actually showered once a year.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
So
things like that, right? And I think it also helps just for kids growing up to understand where the things that they're seeing, appropriated comes from, to actually celebrate the roots of it. Because like, for example, Kourtney Kardashian, she's come up with the bonnet and with Poosh, and it costs like £50.
She came up with a what?
I didn't know that. A satin bonnet, satin hair wrap.
For who?
This is new.
No. Who is
for
it
white
for?
people.
I'm very shocked.
Yeah, and like she's charging over $50 for it, right? So, and people will look at that and say, "Oh, that's a new big thing." Like, yes, I see that.
I'm actually dead.
How many times is this going to happen?
But can we ask, why do you need a bonnet? Give me, what is a bonnet to you? Tell me. And then you can say what bonnet to you.
That's the title of this podcast. But yeah,
to be fair, I don't want to wear a bonnet, but it's something I have to do. So why? I don't understand why someone would go and choose to wear it.
No, but guys, deep it. The conversations that we used to have when we were young was like, if you like, you know, if you have a boyfriend and like, will you wear your bonnet in bed? And that's not
now
attractive.
It's fashionable.
Now Kourtney Kardashian is selling the bonnet.
That's mad. Okay.
So it's things like that. That was even a while ago, but it's things like that. As kids, you'd grow up and you'd see people like laugh at different things, even like food smelling. Because things like that, right? So it's important.
No, one time I actually forgot to take my scarf off when I left my house. I literally got halfway down the road and I was like, what is going on?
Just how?
I don't know.
That's very on brand for you.
I told you what happened that time with it.
You must have been discombobulated.
I didn't realise. I must have been in a rush. But it was tucked into my school jumper.
What?
And it was the netted ones.
Oh.
And like on the way to assembly,
You made it.
we were all lining up,
school.
and I see the thing on the floor, and I was like, "Wait, how did that get there?" Pretty sure that's mine, but I didn't say anything. But people were like, "What's that? Is that underwear?" And I was.
And Serena was like, yeah, it must be.
And I was thinking, this is so embarrassing. But even like the little things like your braid falling out.
Yeah.
Like imagine all those things. And like for me anyway, like I went to a predominantly white and Asian school. For secondary school, Black History wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing. Black History Month. So like I would come to your guys' events and be part of your events and stuff like that. So that's where I kind of got that celebration of Black History from. It wasn't from school. It definitely even wasn't from home because
I think that's so crazy though. But it wasn't for my school. It wasn't until we were like our year group,
11 in year 11,
year 10, I think it was that we started it.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. And so, but it wasn't until we said like, hello. Why are we not doing anything? And I think actually the thing that motivated us to do something is that year was the whole Mark Duggan thing. So for our Black History display, we had celebrating like icons and also injustices still going on today. So we had like the two things. And it was like, I was just reset. Like I went through, that was when the Black Panther me was born. Because I was doing a lot. I remember we had... Like at lunchtime, I was such a nerd. We had debate class or something, and like the whole Mark Duggan thing came up, and I was like going on it like for ages and just like, you know, going back and forth. And then obviously I was hearing about, and around that time as well, I think I'd seen a documentary about Stephen Lawrence, and I remember thinking, what? Like, oh my goodness! And then you're hearing about Trayvon Martin in Florida, I think it was, in America, and I'm like, Jesus bloody Christ, like all of this stuff is still going on, or like that's when I really opened my eyes. So, and it was just really funny that it all kind of came together as one. It was like I was also like wanting to do something to celebrate Black history anyway, and then all these injustices were happening, and I was like, why? And then I was researching and finding out about Rodney King. I don't know if you guys have seen that video of, I think it happened in 91, Rodney King being absolutely battered by police officers.
I don't watch
and it's all on video. And LA was set on fire. Like the riots were like insane. None of the cops even got a slap on the wrist.
No, they wasn't. No.
And it was just like, and then you fast forward to like, so how old?
2020, and the same thing's
2020 still happening. But even then, like, so when I first started to like really understand things and like look at my history, also look at the injustices and just everything, I would have been 15. So I'm now 23. It's my birthday yesterday.
If you haven't had that yet, guys, it was her birthday yesterday.
My birthday. So I would have been like 15. So 8 years ago, or 8 years ago, and it was like, what? Like, this is still happening. Like, oh my goodness. Like, for me, up until then, most of it would have just been like being Black in the UK would have been like knowing that, you know, if you're getting a dirty look, is it because I'm Black? Is it because I'm not? Like, from different people, or like going into a store and being followed around by the security guard, or going into a store and feeling like you have to buy something, even if you don't want something, because you don't want someone to feel like you've stolen something. Yeah. And like, just so then when I like was seeing more of what was going on, I was like, whoa. And that's when it started. And here we are today.
I guess Naima just listed like all the names since 2015, and we're in 2020, and like still injustices being happening, and the lack of education is clearly there. So do you think Black History Month, as it is enough and has been enough?
I don't think it's ever been enough. And this is why it grinds my gears when people say, where's White History Month?
Every day of the year.
Are you actually dumb? Are you mad?
The whole world is white history.
I'm actually dumbfounded when people say that. I'm like, no, it isn't enough. Like, guys, I think I've mentioned this before in one of our previous episodes, but the Black Curriculum, an organisation who wanted to sit down with the education minister to talk about having more Black history on the curriculum. Tell me why they wouldn't even have a sit-down meeting.
Wow.
Yeah. We know the answer.
Yeah.
And so it's not enough. That's my answer.
It's not enough.
It's not enough.
It's not.
No.
What about you guys? What do you think?
It's not enough. I think sometimes we as Black people, we take the little and we kind of run with it.
Yes.
And it's like, we should be so glad that we even have Black History Month, but it shouldn't be the case. Like, it should be instilled in all areas. Like, if it's education, it shouldn't just be, okay, this month we're going to talk about slavery and 4 weeks and then that's done. Like, it should literally be the norm to talk about Black history, because there's maybe I was going to say there's so many Black people in this country, but there really aren't. But like,
when you look at the grand scheme,
we live in
a multicultural
for us it seems like
feels,
we're around, but maybe in other places that's not the case.
No.
Fine. But I think it's not just for us, it's also for other people to know what has happened in the past, not just in your own country, but there should be worldwide education
absolutely
for everybody's culture and history.
Yeah,
I don't think it's enough.
Yeah, going off of what you're saying, I think that's more of a reason to have this integrated into actual history, because you're not gonna, if you haven't met a Black person, some people actually go like decades without even running into somebody who isn't white, right? It's more of a reason to actually have that, because like otherwise you won't know, and because you won't know to celebrate or even how to acknowledge or how to even acknowledge the injustices or fight for it. And I think it isn't enough. It hasn't been enough. What I would love is, let's use that month to celebrate and the other 11 months to actually fight the injustice.
And educate.
Let's do that. So let that month be celebration when we have things to celebrate, because often what we end up doing is we say, slavery doesn't exist anymore. Okay, it's just been redesigned. Look at the American private
prison system.
That is just redesign of slavery, because they don't get to vote. And once you don't get to vote, are you really partaking in the law that affects you at all? No, you're not.
And they're basically free
Exactly. And same here, like the likelihood of a Black person being stopped and searched is crazy. I think it's 10 times, which if you actually think about it is crazy, depending on going off of what you're saying, where there aren't that many Black people to begin with. Yeah. So if they're 10 times more likely to be searched, putting in grand proportion, right, that's actually mad. Yeah. So it's things like that. Why do we not use the rest of the 11 months to educate, to do better, to take actual genuine steps, put targets on it? Say we're going to increase Black attainment, like we're going to decrease Black attainment gap by 10% in 10 years. Let's put a target to it and then put money where your mouth is for the 11 months so that we have something to actually celebrate for that 1 month. That's all I want. Let's just celebrate that 1 month. And 11 months, let's fight. Because what you're doing now is fighting the fact that we have that 1 month to begin with, that we, as you know, the UK population are celebrating Black History Month.
Do you even think we should have a month? Is it a bit like where it started with like a Negro Week, and now we've been given a month and we should be grateful, as Serena says, just taking small bits? Do you think it, I know fighting for the 11 months, but I know how important it is to celebrate, but do you think,
Do you know why? Because I think it's good that we have International Women's Day. It's good that we have International Men's Day, because I think it's important to have almost a landmark that we look at and say, this is it. You might not want to, because it will open up a conversation to people who might not want to have these conversations in the boardrooms. Every big FTSE 100 company is having to do something.
Yeah.
So even if if it's performative, something real can come out of that performative thing. Whereas if you don't have that month, you kind of say, well, yeah, we're doing something in the background, and nobody comes on the spotlight. Because in this month, people do come on the spotlight, because I'm able to then say to a CEO, well, you said you're doing X, Y, Z. Can I see the proof?
Yeah.
Whereas if
October is a great month.
Yeah, because it's your birthday.
It's a great month to pick for Black History Month, if I do say so myself.
It started 23 years ago, didn't it? The day you were born.
Exactly.
This is fun.
Absolutely.
But yes, I think we need it, because if a landmark is needed, otherwise it's easy to forget that conversation and just pretend it's happening, but it's really not. That's what I think, but I'm happy.
What about you
for
guys?
Rebuttals.
Know that Black Lives Matter Reading? There was a post recently that said Black history is something. Like,
it's world history.
World history.
Yeah.
And I think that's why having 1 month is not enough, because that's not all it is. Like, it can't be condensed into 1 month.
Yeah, no.
So I think, there's that as well, because they wouldn't make a World History Month and put everything into 1 month.
Yeah.
There's so much. There's so much. It's almost too much. And I understand you can't teach everything, But I think you need to give people enough information that sparks their curiosity to maybe even want to learn themselves. Yeah. Because I feel like naturally we'll want, like I definitely have wanted to. I've definitely read more books and done more research and like wanted to look into our history before slavery, because it's just so negative. Like a lot of the time when they do teach things in school, it's only really slavery. I don't think there's been I don't even think on the curriculum. I think it's not compulsory. I know that much. It's not compulsory to go through slavery, but I think the only Black history that is on the curriculum at the moment in the UK is slavery.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I think they're very selective about the historical figures, the historical Black figures they want to put out. They don't put out any historical Black figures that were too pro-Black. They're really, really trying to tame them.
And they also like make it like, oh, the white man saved us. That's what is the summary of all the slavery
Abraham Lincoln.
Someone tweeted something silly like that, like we allowed it to end.
Yeah,
like white people allowed slavery to end. Like
who started it?
I'm so baffled by people. Like it's just so crazy. And even like I remember when I was in primary school. I think I've told you guys this. One of the teachers, we had a massive assembly, and it was like, who here knows who Florence Nightingale is? And everyone was like, literally everyone put their hands up. And then it was like, who here knows who Mary Seacole is? And it was literally me and like one other person.
But even and then I don't mean to dismiss being taught about Mary Seacole. I think she's always taught about, and I think she's a very tamed Black person in Black history. I do not dismiss what she's done. She's done amazing stuff.
Like the good Black person.
Yeah, it's like that.
She's the good one.
Yeah.
They only teach about the Black people that didn't fight the white people.
Yes.
And Mary Seacole didn't fight that. She helped white soldiers, and that's why she's taught about. I think if they really wanted to teach all the figures, the Black figures, I think we'll get real change. And even if we look at recent ones like Nelson Mandela, they would love to teach about Nelson Mandela, but once again, he wasn't so vocal. Well, he was vocal, but he wasn't so, I would say, violent or and that's why they're happy to teach
Martin Luther King.
Malcolm X.
And so I think we got to be more forceful in saying we want everyone to be taught about, not just the select few that you guys are comfortable with.
Because I grew up,
those that make you look bad.
Because I grew up thinking Malcolm X was a quote unquote a radicalized, basically a domestic terrorist, because they were like, he chose violence and all the quotes. But if you actually listen to it, nobody actually quotes the later Martin Luther King quotes where he actually accepts peace is not enough. He actually says it. So really and truly, everybody,
selective history.
Exactly. So he's out here, everybody quotes the whole I have a dream every single time.
Love it. If I had a penny.
Can you imagine? And the dream is now still a dream, which is why we have to turn to other measures. They're not listening to peace, right? And you're absolutely right. We hear about Rosa Parks because she was light-skinned. We don't hear about all the women prior who chose not to stand up.
And she was like an upstanding citizen. It was like how crazy for her to be arrested. But there were like young people that had protested, like not wanting to sit where they were told to sit and stuff like that, and were arrested. There were loads of people, but she was the figurehead for that movement, because it was like, how dare this upstanding citizen, nice Black married woman, wears glasses.
Not too dark.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, it's
not too dark.
She's
also
wasn't
dark.
100%.
And a man.
Been around from time.
I think it would have been very different if she was a man as well. I think
he refused to.
I think it becomes less violent when a woman's involved.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So
definitely.
She was a strong Black woman.
Yeah. So what do you guys think the future is for Black History Month here in the UK?
I'm very upset. I know we're going to have these recurring conversations over and over again before there's even an ounce of real change. And I'm not talking, white people no longer voicing Black characters on Simpsons or anything like that. Actual tangible change that affects
that should have been happening. That shouldn't even be a thing, but
yeah, so I don't know.
I just want it to be more like something of substance. I feel like a lot of it at the moment, unfortunately, is a bit performative. Like when you look at like what companies try and do for Black History Month, and like, I was on the tube the other day and it's like just like a poster for Black History Month, and I don't know, I just feel like it's not enough. Like,
can I say one thing to interject? I think my great grandmother who came over to England during the Windrush would have thought that would have been radical and revolutionary to be sat on the train and to see a Black History Month poster. Yeah. So let's not dismiss the progress. I definitely agree with you. We got to come a long way, but
we can be happy about the small victories as well.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's an
no, we
interesting
do.
point.
We absolutely, but we shouldn't dismiss. We got a long way to come.
Yeah, but do you know what I think? A part of me is like, yeah, I agree with you. We do need to celebrate the small victories, and we've come a long way. And representation matters, which is why like Black Panther did an amazing thing for so many children, because they now have a superhero that looks like them. Yeah. They now have characters.
Sorry, not just children. I was gassed.
Yeah.
No, but guys, I left the cinema and I was
everyone was.
I was gassed. I've not seen anything like that.
And see, it makes a difference.
Do you know what I
representation
mean?
makes a difference. So maybe for like a young child sitting on the tube, or even like grown women who haven't seen that, it'll make a difference. But a part of me is also like, is that because we are taught to expect little? That's why that seems revolutionary. We were people were denied so much for so long. Yeah. That even an ounce feels like a kilogram.
Yeah. No, I definitely hear what you're saying. We shouldn't be grateful for little breadcrumbs at all.
Yeah.
But
it's the beginning. Right?
It is a step in the right direction.
What do you think about what the Black community can do? Because to an extent, we have to own it ourselves. Like, we can't necessarily be like, listen to us. Like we can't.
I'd like us to.
We need to kind of have
unity.
I think there's a lot
in the Caribbean.
There's a lot to do within as well. So I think Black History Month shouldn't, or Black History teaching it, whatever, it shouldn't just focus on trying to get white people to listen.
I think first of all, like going back to when we were younger and we used to have the really big community things. We used to rent out halls and have community food and music and all of that. I don't know where it's gone. But we need to bring that back. I think that's something we need to do.
They were like, I really don't want like the African hall parties to like die out. And I would like, me and Serena were talking about this. We were like, Loki has.
It's died out for the Caribbean community here in Reading.
Yeah, that's what we grew up on.
Yeah, I know, and I think that's what kept us strong, and that's what educated us. And when people did their little speeches and they talked about a certain Black history figure, we couldn't actually learn. So once we teach ourselves, that's a great thing. And then we move to teach other people in the wider community. But I think we need to remain at a core, having those community meetings, discussions, parties, food.
Because there's no one to like, not no one, but I feel like there's no community leaders within like the Black community or, because like I feel like the sense of community in the Nepalese community is really strong. I don't know if that's what it looks. That's what it seems. That's what it seems like.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if that would die out too in a couple of years because. But no, sorry.
Yeah, but no. I don't. I think it's a little bit different actually because I feel like. I mean, the Nepalese community, I think it's quite toxic, which I can talk about later. But I feel like there's this thing of like
whole other episode.
Yeah, it's a whole other episode. But I think there's a lot of like. I don't know what the word I'm looking for. I know in Nepalese, I can't think of it in English, but it's like almost like familial bond. So everybody is your auntie, and not just word's sake. They're literally like.
But this is what happened when we first came over, and then slowly as the younger generation.
It's been years, but I feel like the thing with that is, I don't know. I think because of how tightly knit it is, there'll be a lot of like issues going on. People cuss all the time. Like there'll be a lot of like internal politics, but like things like we've got like the Nepalese charity, like different charities going on here that only focus on Nepal, and I think it's a bit easier because it's a country as opposed to a continent.
That's what it is.
So it's just one country, and
even talking about like the growing up and stuff. Like your whole parties might be different to mine, so it's like that's a good point. Like it's not like we're talking about the whole of Africa and the whole of the Caribbean. Having a Nepalese community is probably easier than having a Black community because there's so many elements to it.
That's true.
And I also feel like in terms of that, I think community does not always just mean betterment or like togetherness. I think they're quite different. But I think it's a lot easier to focus your effort. So we've got like Nepalese charity, and that literally just focuses on that. We've got UNICEF rights for Nepalese children. We've got like things like that. And I spoke at a UNESCO one quite recently, the one for women, and that was literally talking about like the women rights issue in Nepal as opposed to a whole, like it was in Asia, because it would look a lot different.
So true.
So like laws are different. For example, abortion is not illegal in Nepal, but it is in other parts of Asia.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a bit different, I think, in that sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It comes with its own problems. I have a lot to say about that.
What communities?
Yeah.
But I definitely think we need to rebuild our Black community at the core. And then I think we can tackle Black history from within. We have to educate ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's one thing, like, obviously I watch a lot of Akala's interviews, and one of the things that he talks about is the fact that he went to a Pan-African Saturday school, and that's what, like, gave him, like, obviously people now are like, he's so well educated, but he's been learning about this stuff. And he was like, I think in one of his interviews he was saying how he was being taught one thing in school, but he was like, but in Saturday school, and that was when he was like 5-6 years old. So I think, like, just watching that, I'm like, I want to send my kids to a Pan-African Saturday school if they're still around.
And
like,
they were definitely around when I was growing up, but I don't know if they're running and up and running now. This is the thing.
Everyone, guys.
Yes.
Untold the school.
Untold academics coming your way. Yeah. We will be setting up our own nursery, school, college, university.
Whatever you say, we have to stick to it.
Yeah.
Okay, go live, public, higher education.
In the future, I would love to do that. So in conclusion,
we'll have our own university.
This is going to be the future.
Yeah. We can take them all the way through the education system from...
Yeah. I think you need to. I think that's how you do it. You have to reclaim the... Because people keep talking about, oh, don't try to reinvent the wheel, don't try to reinvent the wheel, but the wheel is broken. The wheel doesn't need to exist anymore. We've got motors now. Let's do better.
Yeah,
so that's what it needs to be done. It just needs to be reclaimed.
That's pretty much all for this episode. Is there anything else that you guys want to say?
Let's do better.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. And I think the more we educate ourselves, the more we'll be in a better position to educate our children and others. So true.
Yeah, education is key
as well.
Keep fighting the good fight.
Yeah, even when you feel tired and drained, that's when you need to keep going even more. Write to your CEOs, write to your local MPs, just keep writing. You may think it's not making a difference, but continue.
It's what got us the poster on the tube station.
Yes.
So keep going, guys. Educate yourself to educate others. That's the most important thing. And just, bombard people with messages. Have no shame. Have no shame.
Have no shame. You're actually right.
We just discussed what Black History Month means to us, but it's important to hear what Black History Month means to you. Feel free to comment below, subscribe and like this video, and click the notification button.